This is my next project. About a week before I got these, my sister-in-law messaged me and said that the city where we both live were having an auction. And I have never done an auction before online, and I thought it'd be very interesting. So I went and to look through all of the items, and the only thing that I saw that was about furniture was this item or these items. So it was these two side bed tables, the dresser underneath, and a 3-paneled mirror. So I went online, and I didn't know anything about how auctions work, as in I could have gone down to the place where they were holding the auction to check out the items. However, I didn't do it. And the first bid, it was $5 each bid. So I got this for, I got the dresser and the two bedside tables for total after tax. I think it was about $38. So I think that's pretty good for the dresser you see right there and the two bedside tables right there. Now, I don't like that they're all on the ground. So I did order some legs off of Amazon, and I will be putting some white or liming wax on them. The problem is, when I looked for a liming wax or white wax in my city, I went to Lowe's, I went to Home Depot, and then I called up the local hardware store, and then I called up another store that were selling the liming wax online, and nobody had it. So I finally went to Fusion Paints through YouTubers, so she could get like whatever profit if you order through somebody's links. And then I also went to Dixie Belle's place to order theirs as well. Now, part of the reason why I'm so interested in this color of wood is because my kitchen cabinets is very similar. And what I want to do is I want to clean up my kitchen cabinets, then do a whitewash, and then put the white wax on it or the liming wax, and then they'll be a lot lighter and I think a lot cleaner looking. So there's twofold. One is to sell these, and one is to practice on them. I like the way they turned out. However, sad to say, at the very end of the video, they are not 100% done, because why? That's right, no wax. So annoying. So one of the drawers was pretty dirty inside. Every single drawer had a sticker on it. I did use Goo Gone to get rid of the residue, and that always works so nicely. They weren't really filthy. They were just, used. I think kids had them because I did find little glitter stuff and stickers, and although some adults like stickers, I don't think this was the case here. These were incredibly heavy. They are mostly solid wood. They, I believe, are oak fronts, and I don't know the side, but I am shocked how heavy they are. And most of it, I didn't really see. Oh, yeah. The tops of it is veneer, which I found very interesting, because you can look at the back and see if it's pressboard or solid wood, and it's not. However, there was a bunch of water damage, when people put their drinks on wood. And so since I am going to be whitewashing and putting a wax on it, doesn't really matter. So here's me again. I am using extra large gloves, and they're easy to put on. However, they do have about 1 inch of extra finger room at the very top. Here is the Quickwood, which I just cannot say enough good things about it. I've had this Quickwood for, let's count, for about 3 months, and I really thought it would dry out just by sitting there. It doesn't dry out. It's amazing until you mix it together. So I don't know who made Quickwood, but whoever that person was or the team who made this, kudos. Really well done. It's amazing. The directions do say on the back that you should have gloves on, but once again, I'm going to be on my annoying fence of people. Make gloves for women's hands. Women do not have big man hands. Well, some people do, but some of us have little small hands. And some of us have little fat hands. So yeah, people need to look into that. So here I am filling in the holes. There were 2 holes on each bedside side table. Had one side had 2 holes in it. Don't know why, but they did. Maybe it was to attach to something. It was very weird. So I did fill the holes up with a quick wood. And for whitewashing, it did make it a little bit, you can see the little hole, I think, more clearly than if you painted it solid. However, I love wood, and I like seeing the wood marks through the paint, so I was relatively happy how this ended up. I have not sold these yet because, once again, I'm waiting for what? That's right, the wax. So here I am fixing up the little corner that was nicked, and you can also see here it's press board, it's not solid. Yeah, there is solid wood on the fronts, and the drawers are solid wood, but the actual support of the side tables are veneer over pressed wood, which I think also makes it a little bit heavier. So this is a good showing of the color and me filling in the holes. It takes about a day for the quick wood to dry nicely, and it does really a great job, I just must say. Now today also, I was thinking about what to talk about, and it's really interesting. My husband and I, when we first started dating, I want to show you also on this, the back of these dressers were this dark color right here that I'm cleaning. I do paint it a white color, and that's for 2 reasons. One, I think it looks nicer, and number 2, it's easier to clean. So I do try to paint things. You can see in this drawer, it's very dirty inside. So I scrubbed it, and then I sanded it for, I don't know, maybe a half an hour. It didn't get all of the little black pieces off, but it looks good enough in my opinion. So I think also I will use the liming wax when it comes to go inside of the drawers. So that means that probably the little tiny piece will be covered up nicely. Here I'm in my side yard, actually my backyard, and here's how dirty the water was. And then as I'm walking into the garage, I say to myself, oh my goodness, this door is filthy. So we use this door a lot because it's the door from the garage out to the backyard and the side yards. Our side yards are a lot bigger than my backyard because we built this garage in 2008. But even so, the garage is behind the house, which makes a lot less space. But the side yards of the house are pretty nice. Somebody in my family likes to put notes up everywhere with tape, and then there's tape residue everywhere. So since I've gotten back from living overseas, I have tried to remind people that putting tape on things is not a good idea. Try to use sticky notes, or just find the people in your family and tell them face to face, please do something, don't do something else, because that's the reason why I really hate notes that are left all around houses. So back in the day, before I was married to my lovely husband, I found him on Facebook. There was an I love blah, 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 the city where we live. And I saw his face, but then you can look on Match.com without buying anything just to see who's on there. And I saw the exact same picture of him. So my girlfriend at the time, living in the UAE, she was an American lady married to a local Emirati. And she was lovely. She's no longer with us, sadly. I miss her. She was such a wonderful, positive person. She said, just message him. What's the worst he can do? Say no? And I'm like, that's right. Now, here are the old pieces of wood that I've cut off, and I do keep them for using later on. The maple on the left-hand side is just amazing, 1.5 inches. And now here, this is oak. And one of my first videos I found this oak side table in Seattle, and I took the top and I made it into a rectangle instead of a oval, and it just looks so much better, and I still use it in my bedroom today. So I'm cutting up little pieces to use it to attach the legs onto. The bottom of the area was really not strong enough or deep enough for me to attach the legs onto. So I'm using some glue, first of all, and gluing them down, and then I use the air gun to put little nails in there to hold it. Yeah. Anyway, so my girlfriend at the time, she told me, oh, message the guy, what's the harm? You know, you live far away, blah, blah, blah. So I messaged him, and he was on vacation with his kids and his wife. They had been divorced for about 6 or 7 months. And so we started chatting, and he didn't realize I wasn't living in our hometown. And so we became pen pals for about 6 months before we met. Now here are the nails for the power gun and all the different kinds of tools, like what I'm holding right now, the actual gun itself. They all get opened and closed in different ways. So it can be confusing when you first start doing this. So sometimes I use YouTube to figure out what I'm doing wrong. Now, I know a lot of people, they like to use the battery-operated tool like this. I've never even seen that except for online. I love these power tools. I don't know. All the air behind me, I don't know if it's dangerous or not. Now here, this one was really weird. The very first shot I did for the nail, it didn't even go in the wood. And then I realized, oh yeah, Paula, put your glasses on. So I have my headphones on, I have my glasses on, and because these are actually pretty heavy. I do have 2 sets of the headphones, so you do see one that's hanging up, on the table, but I'm pretty sure I'm wearing this because it's so loud. So when we were dating for the 6 months, now I'm only telling you this story because when I work out, I love watching YouTube videos when people tell me stories. So if you don't want to listen to my stories, no problem. You could just watch this and listen to your own music or whatever, but I just don't like music that's mostly on YouTube. Anyway, so I listen to a lady on podcasts, and she always talks about if you're going to get married, you should have, I think it's 6 months of premarital counseling. And during the counseling, you get asked a lot of questions. And I know for a fact that a lot of people do not ask each other questions. I have a friend from college whose friend from college got married, and she was very devout, born-again Christian, and she didn't find out until like maybe a day before their wedding that her husband didn't believe in God. What? And of course, I don't personally care if you do or do not believe in God, but if you're a born-again Christian, I would think you would want to have a spouse who believes what you believe. Now here I put on some blue tape because that gives me an idea about how deep the actual fastener is. So you can see there, I'm blowing off the extra pieces of wood so I can see how far down it goes. Now, I did not have a drill that was big enough, so what I do is I go kind of around in a circle to make the drill hole a little bit bigger. Yeah. Now, in the very beginning, I just used a nail to smash it down, but I have so many pieces of wood. It's like, Paula, use a piece of wood to smash it down, and that way it's a lot better for the item that you're hammering. Anyway, so I was shocked to find out that some people don't even ask each other questions before they get married about really important things. All they think is, oh, that person's cute. Oh, really? That's it? So for the 6 months before we met, I asked him every single question that I could think of. So for example, how were you brought up? Do you believe in God? Do you want to go to church every Sunday? What happens if your family wants you to go to church? Do you feel pressure to go to church to make your family happy? How do you feel about spending money? He had 2 kids, and so I said, how much money do you want to pay for your kids' weddings? How much of a grandparent do you want to be if you ever want to have, if your kids ever have babies? How about your former wife? If your former wife doesn't want me around, I don't really care. I don't want to make any problem. Do you care? Are you a gladiator or a peacekeeper? I thought that was a really good question. I myself I am a gladiator. That means that when I see injustices or I think that things are not fair, I will say something, I will do something, and I will stand up for what I think is the right thing to do. My husband is a peacekeeper. He does not want to cause problems. He wants everyone to get along. And to a point, that's good. And to a point, I think, However, I am a very strong woman, and I do not think I put up with people's shenanigans very well at all. So I have no problem standing up for myself. And if he is not standing up for me, which has not happened very often at all, I will tell him or ask him, why aren't you doing this? Why wouldn't you stand up for your wife or your girlfriend or whatever? So it's kind of nice to have an easygoing guy because it makes life easier. Because sometimes when I don't want to deal with something because I'm just frustrated, he will calm everything down. So it's a good question to ask. Are you a gladiator or are you a peacekeeper? How do you want to have your holidays? Do you want to have holidays at your own house? Do you want to go where your family is? Do you want to go on trips? How often do you want to go on vacation? Do you like planning vacations? What happens if one person's sex drive is a lot less than the other person? What are you going to do about it? Are you good about talking about that? How often do you think you would want to have sex? What happens if somebody cheated on you? How do you think you would work through that? Asking about his prior relationship. What happened there? Why do you think, happened there? How much time do you want to spend with your grown adults? Do you want to live in our hometown? And, talking about what things make people frustrated or angry, looking about how tidy their house is. So my husband was living with his teenage daughter, and I think sometimes people got blamed for messiness that wasn't really their fault, and so I am much more of a clean freak. However, I don't mind cleaning up, so being married has been pretty good because I don't mind organizing and cleaning up if somebody tries a little bit. Yeah, so religion was a big deal. Oh, another thing was about, money. So are you a saver or a spender? How do we decide on things we want to buy? So for example, if it's over a certain amount of money, like, $50, and it's an item that you want for your personal reason, not to share for the family, we talk about, do you mind if I go and get this? Of course, I can do whatever I want. I have access to the money. I actually am the person who's in charge of the money at the house. However, it's good to know, like he said, he wanted his own bank account so that he could buy me presents without me knowing. It's like, really? Just take money out of the account and at the ATM machine. Well, I'd ask. See, I don't really need to have presents that are a surprise. So, yeah, it's not really my thing. I would much rather go on vacation or go do something locally than get a gift. I mean, I think diamonds are beautiful, but all I can see them if they're on my fingers. So if you gave me any jewelry on my earrings or from my neck, I wouldn't see it. It'd only be the other person, right? So I don't want. Jewelry's lovely, but I don't really care about that anymore. Which leads me to the story of the gift of the Magi. And I'm not really sure if any of you know what this story was, but when I was younger, there was always a Christmas story about this. And I'm only bringing it up, it's because of the jewelry that was involved basically in this story. So there was a couple, and they were relatively poor back, like I think in the 1800s or whatever, 1900s. And the woman had beautiful, beautiful, long hair. And the husband had a watch that had been brought down from generation to generation. And they both told each other, let's not get anything for Christmas for each other because we can't afford it. So they both said, yes, I agree. Well, when Christmas came, the husband woke up and gave his wife a beautiful wrapped gift, and inside of it was a bejeweled comb to put in her hair to help keep up her hair, and it was just beautiful. Well, she then takes off the scarf of her head and she shows that her beautiful long hair is gone. Why is that? Because she sold her hair to buy him a gold chain for his pocket watch. So I know that this story is supposed to be so romantic and lovely, but the woman whose podcast I listen to, she always talks about how much she loves it, and it talks about how you're being so generous and thinking of the other person. So instead of just following the rules, oh my gosh, the woman doesn't have her pretty hair that I'm sure the husband liked, and the guy doesn't have his pocket watch that has gone down from generation to generation. Here I am is using these little wipes to clean off the glasses because when I was sanding, the glasses were really getting filled with dust. So in my opinion, if you're a really good married couple, you tell each other what you want to do. If my husband sold something that was a family heirloom that he could never get back to get me a little present, I would be so sad because we talked about how we wanted to treat each other. And I don't understand how that story is romantic, right? I think what might be romantic is that maybe he got an extra job, I don't know, being a chimney sweep on the weekend, and he told her, I'm going to go, to raise money, or she started doing laundry for local, get a second job. Why you're cutting off your hair, which will take forever to grow back, and he probably liked her long hair, and why would he give up his pocket watch? How's he going to tell time, right? There's no cell phones back then. Anyway, so that story makes me crazy, and that's why I think you need to talk about what you think and then follow through. If you both say, we're not giving Christmas presents, and only one person does, then you're the jerk, right? Because you didn't do anything nice. Now, this paint, I put half and half, about half water and about half of the white paint that we actually used, indoor paint. And I know that everybody buys kind of expensive paint for furniture, but as of yet, all the furniture that I have used, most of it I still have that was painted, actually all of it, and then the things I've given away have been stained. So I'm sitting right here at my desk, and I'm feeling the nice black paint that was used for wood or concrete, and it's holding up beautifully. So I'm not really sure how important it is to use paint that's only for furniture. If it's for wood, I think that's great. So if you ever get a spouse or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or somebody that you want to be with, make sure that you talk about issues and then follow through and keep what you said. If you change your mind, that's fine, but talk about it. I just find that story horrible. And if the wife or the husband didn't do that, how horrible would they have felt? I hate that story. Anyway. Also, you can see on the top of this side table, there's still the watermarks right there. And that's okay because after it dries, I put an extra stain on the whole thing but then I don't wipe off where there's kind of a square at the very top. So I think it looks pretty good right now the way when it's finished, and it does cover up all of the old stains. I didn't want to do too much sanding because it is a veneer on top. I didn't want it to punch through and look really bad. Another thing we talked about is how much do we want to spend on things? Like, for example, I don't care about fancy shoes, but I do like getting facials and massages. So how many of those can you have? Living overseas in the Middle East, it was pretty inexpensive to get your nails done and get massages, but back in the States, it's probably double the price. So now that we're back here, we, can't do whatever we want because we don't make as much money, and living overseas was tax-free. Yeah, I know. So if you are an American and you live overseas, and you are a resident of that country, or if you are in the military, you can have tax-free money up to about $120,000 per person. So that's an amazing little bonus, and I was very pleased that that was the case as of now in this country. Also, like, how often do you want to go eat out, right? So when I was single, I ate out a lot because when you're cooking for just one person, it's really boring. And if you like, for example, I love arugula salad. If you're from the UK or other places, that's rocket. Now, my friends would make fun of me because I would go across the street and buy this amazing arugula salad with balsamic vinegar and tomatoes and beautiful Parmesan cheese, and that would be my dinner. Well, my girlfriend said, why don't you just buy it from the store, and then that way, you can have it for a long time. Well, the portion sizes that they sell at the store where I was living was for like a family of 10. So I would buy it, and then I would have to put it in the sink, the arugula or the rocket, and then all of the sand would come off because in the Middle East, if it's growing in the dirt, there's sand everywhere. And so that's a soaking process, then cleaning all of the leaves, and then, I'd have to have that every single night. And it's just not as delicious and happy making as me going next door to the restaurant. And the chef who worked there was from Italy. And oftentimes he would say to me, oh, why don't you have the garlic bread? Bad accent. And he would give me free garlic bread. Oh, I'm telling you, it was just delicious and fresh and so yummy. So that was really, really nice. Another thing to think about is family. So my husband, he has a mom and a dad who are still alive. They both got divorced. Well, both got divorced. They got divorced, and both of them remarried somebody else. And they were both with those people for many, many years. My husband's mom's spouse died, but his father's spouse, they've been married for like 30 years, and everyone gets along, and they're very nice, and they have an aunt who is lovely, and an uncle, and his sister, and his brothers, and his kids, and then even his former wife's family are just lovely people. They all came to our wedding. I mean, it's just shocking. His former wife is nice. Yeah, the whole thing is bizarre to me. I don't know why they got divorced. They all seem like a bunch of really nice people, and so, do you get along? Do you like to be with the other people's family? If your in-laws are not going to be kind to you, do not get married, right? Because that's going to be somebody, unless you live far, far away, who's going to be around you all the time. I do believe my parents like my husband more than me, and if you knew me, you'd probably know why. But yes, his kids are delightful, and he's delightful, and yeah, everybody's really, really delightful. Let's see. Oh, yeah, how about ways of affection? Does the person always want to hold hands? well, I used to. And then I started becoming a woman of a certain age. And oh my gosh, I would get so hot and sweaty. And my hands are so fat and little. So my hands get squished really easily. And so I just think like kissing and hugging and saying nice things is more important. I know some people think holding hands is very important. And I think it's nice. But yeah, I just get so hot and yeah. It's not really for my thing. And let's see. So here I am. I am using 320 sandpaper to do the first sanding to get the little pieces of dust or anything off of here. The paint itself has been around for a little bit. There might be little pieces of like rust or something that was in the can. So it's a nice thing just to clean that off of there. And then later on, I will come back and give the second coat. And the second coat, I do wear gloves because my fingers start getting covered with the paint because I'm wiping it all down. Yeah. And it's really interesting to me that the wood itself was kind of a yellowy orange color, but when it gets whitewashed, it almost turns like a pink. So I found that really interesting. Another question was really good is about where do you see yourself in the future? And when we were first dating, I really wanted to live overseas. And so my husband said, yeah, great idea. So he went and got his MBA. And then we got jobs in China. We lived in China for 4 years. 2 years we lived in a place called Nanchang. And that is more of a middle of the country. And it's not really rural, but there are more farms around it. But the population is about 11 million people. And when you think about population, it's just remarkable because that was a quote unquote small town. And there are only about 1,000 expats. And an expat is a person who is from another country. So that's talking about everybody from India, America, Hong Kong, well, anywhere that's not from China. So yeah, there were about 1,000 people, and it was really interesting to be a major minority in a country. I find that really interesting, and you get to know about different people's cultures, and it's really fun. We met a lovely guy from South Africa. He was there with his wife and his 3 daughters. And he was a wine connoisseur. And oh my goodness, he would invite us out to this French restaurant. There was a Chinese woman who had lived in Paris, and she learned how to cook French food. And then she had a cook who she trained, I guess. And oh my goodness, that was amazing. Actually, that was in Suzhou. So in Nanchang, we found some really great friends from the States who did a whole bunch of things, and also really great Chinese students or coworkers who were just really kind. And the government would take us on tours. And the irony, or the ironic, irony. Yeah. The office was called the Office of Propaganda. And in America, propaganda is seen as something that's kind of a lie or negative. But reality, propaganda is just to make your area seem better, right? So we had a friend whose wife worked for that office. And so we were invited to go to farms and go berry picking and see all this amazing stuff. So as a foreigner, China did a really good job of showing how great of a country it is for visitors. And if you ever wanted to go traveling once, everything is safe and there's no COVID and blah, 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 Chinese people are incredibly friendly to foreigners. And I loved the food. And I can't say enough great things about traveling in China. Let's see. Okay, so after we worked in China, the whole time I wanted to get back to the Middle East. The first 2 years in Nanchang, the first year was a little bit of a culture shock for me. The second year, I sucked it up and I said, "You should be happy you have a job." The third year, a girlfriend of mine that I met in South Korea, she said, "Hey, I'm leaving my job in Suzhou. Why don't you come for an interview and maybe get the job?" Well, I got the job, so I became a supervisor of the English department. And thank you very much, my friend from you know who you are. And then we were there for 2 years, and Suzhou, is delightful. There's a whole bunch of UNESCO heritage sites there. And because we were residents there, we paid, I think, about like $10 for a pass, which meant we could go to any of the sites for free. And we went to all of them more than once. There's a place called Pingzhanglu, which is a street, and it's a kind of a heritage site. There's canals everywhere. Oh, I do miss the heritage of China and all of the amazing things and the food and the cute kids and the friendly people who will smile at you. And yeah, it was lovely. So then after there, we got jobs in the United Arab Emirates, and my husband really liked teaching the Chinese students. They were really into talking about, what's happening with money, politics, and things like that. So they were really up to discuss anything, and he would bring in podcasts about like Planet Money and talk about, money and things, and he loved them. Then we got jobs in the UAE, and although I think the students in the UAE are a lot more warm and funny, the students that my husband taught were a little bit of a lower level of English, and also they were maybe not so savvy about the world. I mean, they were lovely people, but they just weren't as interested, I think, what my husband was trying to talk about. So he had his supervisor tell him that he needed to kind of explain things more simply. And once he got in the groove, he liked the students there too very much. So we were there. I was there for 3 years at one job. And then I got another job with my husband's company because we wanted to be able to travel together. So here is the second coat that I'm putting on. And if you look, you can see there's a square kind of on the top, which I'm working around. I realized I do like a little bit more paint than less. And also it helps it with where I fix the holes where I put the quick wood in. It was kind of hard to cover that up. But all in all, I think this turned out pretty dang well. I like it a lot. But once again, I'm not finished. I will be putting on some liming wax or wax that's white. So then my husband and I were I was in the UAE again for 4 years, and then he had to stay a little bit later because the job I had, they did not pass probation. And the reason why they said is because it was obvious I was unhappy. And that is the case. It was really weird. I worked for 2 different companies, and the first company I worked for, they were sticklers for following rules. Like, for example, you're giving a test, you have to have 2 people in there, 2 teachers. Why? Because if somebody needs to go to the bathroom, you have to make sure that they don't have a phone on them, they're not talking to anybody in the bathroom, and, making sure people aren't cheating. The second job I had, nobody was following any directions. It made me so frustrated. So now I'm using a 320 pad with a soft pad. I'm using it by myself with my hands. Because this is a whitewash, I don't want to remove too much. I'm just trying to make it smooth feeling. And it does feels like butter. So after I was there from, I think, August through March. In March, my boss said, you need to come to have a little meeting. And I said, is it good or bad? And he said, well, and I said, okay, no problem. I'm a grown-up adult. I'm fine. So the boss made me sign a paper, and the paper just said that I was leaving because I wasn't happy, and I very happily signed my name. And my husband, we were going to leave, but in December. And so I was very happy because I wanted to leave. I hated the job. It made me so sad. Like the students were really sweet, but the management was just so sad. I mean, they were so mean and just, I was shocked because my previous job was so lovely. It was in the same country and it was weird. Anyway, so when they told me I had 1 month to leave, I was like, rock on. So I messaged my girlfriend from the States. And so she and her family were like, yeah, we're coming because we had a house. They could stay for free. So then my girlfriend's like, yep, we're coming. And then I called up my sister who lives in a foreign country. And I said, can I stay with you for a month? And she said, yeah, awesome. Because then you can see, people graduate and have birthdays. And I said, awesome. And then we had the weekend, and I came back and the boss said, oh, we made a mistake. We really weren't supposed to tell you that you only have a month. Can you stay until July? And I said, oh no, I have plans. I am not a person who just sits around doing nothing. So we went on a 3-week vacation that was paid, part of being a teacher. And then I taught 1 more week to be nice. And my boss even said to me, oh, I'm really surprised you didn't call in sick. And I'm like, right, because I'm not a horrible person who's a slacker, right? It's not the students' fault that you don't like me. Yeah, the students were really sad. They brought me a little chocolate cake that you broke. So it was like chocolate, and the inside was filled with little truffles. Oh, they're such sweet students. Anyway, so then I went back to the States for a couple of weeks, did a bunch of projects. You can see now the part that I am not staining so much. So that way, I think it looks nice. So then I went to visit my sister, and then I went back to the UAE again, and we traveled a lot. And then I came back to my hometown, where I am right now. So now you can see this is walking through my dining room, and I'm leaving stuff in the living room because it's warm, and then that way it will fully dry. And then once the liming wax appears, I can do that in the living room because wax doesn't make a mess or anything like that. And then, it's not in anyone's way. So here are the legs that I bought, and I will be waxing them so they're a little bit more white. Probably. That's my plan right now. I think they stand out a little too much because the color's not the same. Now, once again, these side tables were not on legs. I put them in here because I think it looks nicer to have a raised side table next to your bed. It's easier to reach and things like that. So here we go, standing straight up. Put those in. They slide very nicely. Now, the funny thing is, the person who had these, they wrote very small lettering about top or bottom. Now, later on, here they are afterwards, I'm going to show you the dresser, and they used huge black markers to write on the wood. What the heck? You can see the little tiny black stains in there, but I think the liming wax will cover that up. So I will be waxing these and the inside as well, and the legs. They slide so nicely. So how much would you try to sell these for? I'm going to try to sell the whole set as a price. So here it would be without the whitewash. So I do love TikTok, and they always have those reveals. So on TikTok, I'll be doing that. Anyway, that's my last project. Hope you liked. Please subscribe and have a great day.